Well, hey guys, thanks for tuning in again. My name is James K. Jones and welcome to my basement. I'm starting a new series called The Basics. This came after my first couple of YouTube videos where I had many of the subscribers reach out and say, hey, what if you just taught us like everything you do, like start to finish, little small batch videos that would help us be successful. I asked a buddy of mine about it and he said, you know, most people really don't know how to cook. They don't know where to start, and the things that you take for granted, they don't know what you're talking about. For instance, I said the very first YouTube video I did was sharing my pimento cheese recipe, and I said, you know, you put in a splash of heavy cream. People don't know what a splash is. I know what a splash is. To me, a splash is a splash. But in dealing with that, you come to realize that maybe I'm saying things or going through things too fast. And I want this to be a channel that really gets you excited about getting in the kitchen, making delicious goodness, and really just experiencing the joy and the fulfillment you can get from creating beautiful food. So if we're going with the basics, we're going to start at step one. Step one for me is always going to be get my stuff together. So step one for preparing any kind of good meal is what the French chefs call mise en place. Now me personally, I'm not a fan of the big fancy French words or the fancy chef words or the culinary terms, just because I think a lot of times those things get overused and people try to use big words and they don't really know what they mean. For me, I would rather know what I was doing than knew what I was saying. But it kind of had a personal thing for me. I kind of got jaded. My first job interview that I went to right out of high school was to work for a French chef in Columbus, Georgia at the Chattahoochee River Club. I had no idea that he wanted people to come in there with culinary degrees and years of background in big kitchens and in, you know, food world to work for him. My background was, you know, I've cooked with my granny in her kitchen all her life. I cooked with my meemaw. I worked at Ryan's Steakhouse all through high school, and I was managing a small kitchen in a speakeasy pub. But when I walked into his office, there were people sitting there with suits and ties and, you know, fancy people, and I had on a baseball cap and a t-shirt. And when I filled out my application, he called me in and basically was like, why in the world would you waste your time interviewing with me? Who are you? He offended me, and once he offended me, then I didn't care what I said to him after that, but he started asking me all these fancy French terms. You know, do you know Bounois? Do you know Beurre Blanc? And I was like, no, but I know how to cook. And, you know, he showed me his applications and all the things he had piled up of people that had been to culinary school and had all this training. And I said, well, I don't have any of that, but I know how to cook. And if you teach me how to do it, I can do anything. And I left there expecting never to hear from him again because, you know, I aggravated him, he aggravated me. We kind of got in a little tiff. And at that time, I was 19 years old and I had not learned to curb my attitude. I was shocked. 3 weeks later, I got a call and he said, I want you to be on my launch team. He brought me in. He was a French chef, everything from scratch, everything, nothing processed, nothing. It was the things that I learned with him there were amazing. But this was one of those core principles that I learned from him, was this French culinary term called mise en place, which basically means just getting all your stuff together before you start. And that has served me well over the past 30 plus years that I've been in the food world. You know, the great Paul Bear Bryant, he said, have a plan and work the plan. Most people are easy to beat because most folks don't have a plan. And, you know, he won a lot of football games. But this is a principle that I teach to my kids, that I use in business, that I use in other areas of life. And if we're going to talk about the basics of cooking, this is where we need to start. Basically, the first thing I do when I get ready to plan a meal, a party, a big job, small job, anything, is I get my notebook out, I take my notes, I decide what I'm going to do, I make a prep sheet, a prep list. If it's 2 or 3 days out, I write down the things I need to buy, the things I need to purchase. Day of an event, you know, I write down everything that I have to do, even if it's dinner, even if I'm just making kids spaghetti and meatballs. I write it down. I have it ready to go. I've actually started saving, like when I do holidays, like this one says Labor Day 2020. The reason why I save them is because, you know, I want to remember, you know, what I did, how I did it. Maybe be able to look at it the next year and say, you know, I made this, they didn't like this as much, this doesn't go over. So the gist of it is, if you're going to enjoy cooking food, if you're going to enjoy making meals, if you're going to enjoy doing things for your family, this can help you get a head start and get it out with success. So you'll notice on the videos when I share a recipe with you, I always give you a hardware list. You know, you need this bowl, this pot, this knife, these ingredients. Get all those things together, and it'll really save you a lot of time and give you some success in the kitchen. But you want to gather all your ingredients. You want to gather your hardware. You want to get all your tools together. If you're going off a recipe, you want to get your recipes together, get everything out, get it ready, and it actually makes the job fun. So mise en place. Get your stuff together before you start. Gather your ingredients. Have your plan. Have your recipes. Have your list. All the things that you need to get going before you even attempt to undertake making a delicious meal. Just to give an example of like what mise en place means, we're going to have some people over later, and so we're going to have beef stew, cornbread, and peach cobbler. Pretty simple stuff, but in order for me to cook that and make it good, and this particular friend loves my beef stew. He thinks it's the top of the world. I'm just going to show you how I gather all that together and get it together, just to give an example of what that looks like. All right, there's one more thing. Also, make sure you got your environment ready. Make sure your kitchen is ready to cook in. Get your counters cleaned off. Have your sinks cleared. I learned that from my grandmother. My granny, she called it cleaning as you go. She would say, baby, if you just do a little bit as you go, you can enjoy your time in the kitchen instead of getting to the end and then you got this pile of dishes and you're miserable. Or, you know, when you're prepping, you're cooking, you got stuff everywhere. It's just a mess. It's just hard to navigate. But that is part of mise en place too, is getting your environment ready. I always get my sinks ready, make sure I got my dishwater. Typically, I use the dishwasher just for like dishes, like plates and cups and stuff like that. But for pots and pans and stuff for cooking, the dishwasher wouldn't do it justice. So I'll always go ahead and get that ready, make sure I got my trash cans. You know, a lot of times when I'm cooking, I don't even use a little kitchen trash can. I'll take a box and put a bag in it, you know, if I know I'm gonna have a lot of trash. And just get ready to be successful, and it makes everything so much better. So before I start, I'm gonna make sure I've got all my ingredients. I wanna make sure I got my beef for my beef stew, tomatoes and celery and carrots and onions, potatoes, basil. I wanna make sure I got my beef bone broth and olive oil I'm gonna use, salt and pepper, black pepper, white pepper, a little garlic we got minced up there. Then I wanna make sure I got all my hardware. I got my soup pot, I got my sharp knife, cutting board, a wooden spoon for stirring, a colander for cleaning my vegetables, and we're about ready to prep. So see, now that we got everything where how it needs to be, we're gonna sear our meat, got all our vegetables ready, put that together, and we'll be good to go. Mise en place. So now we got it all together, about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Put that to a simmer. We're gonna have dinner. Well, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this first episode of The Basics. Now, I'm not going to stop putting out cooking videos, but I'll have a tab on the videos that just says The Basics. And I've got a ton of these that I want to go through and just share little tips with you on how to be successful in the kitchen. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to this page. It helps us keep doing what we do. And share it with your friends. Tell people about it. Share it on Facebook and Instagram and all the social media platforms that you follow. Thanks so much for cooking with me. See you soon. And for more about me and my family and my story, check out our podcast, the Straight Outta Prison Podcast. It's available on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and really just about anywhere you enjoy listening to podcasts.